with another on the way.
With that horrific
Hotel hallway surveillance video of Diddy assaulting Cassie is the chilling image for which the world now knows her.
Cassie Ventura, of course, on the stand most of the day. She's talking in graphic detail at times about her participation in these freak-offs. So what did we learn so far today?
Yeah, Trevor, very graphic indeed. I can tell you that I got a chance to listen to her testimony inside court here behind us, and she was emotional. She broke down into tears at one point when she talked about participating in those freak-offs. She says that she was just 22 years old, had just turned 22 when Combs first proposed to her those drug-fueled sex marathons with escorts. She says eventually, though, they became almost weekly, and that they lasted on average, as you said, about 2 to 3 days, the longest one 4 days, and that she stayed awake by drugs that she says Combs gave to her, including ecstasy, cocaine, and Molly. She testified that those freak-offs made her feel dirty and worthless, but that she felt like she did not have a choice but to participate because she says Combs would become violent with her. As you pointed out, she says that he would bash her in the head, kick and drag her, and that she didn't know what would happen if she didn't do what he wanted her to do. She told the jury that she tried to express her feelings about participating, but in at least one text message shown to the jury, Combs told her to make it happen anyway. Trevor?
Brian, given how emotional and explicit all this testimony is, what kind of strategy do you think we might see from the defense attorneys in cross-examination?
So I think the defense is going to try to move away from the emotion and some of the more explicit terminology that we're seeing in this case and try to go for a much more logical argument that they're making, that Sean Combs participated in domestic violence, allegations that would rightfully so be attributed to state charges, but that there was no racketeering conspiracy. There was no sex trafficking. It was domestic violence for domestic violence sake, based on jealousy, infidelity, and just anger. And so I think that's the angle they're going to take. But some of the testimony, as Rena pointed out, and just how Cassie is on the stand, that's going to be a very hard argument to distinguish between the different types of force and how they were used.
So, Rena, Diddy is there in court. He's watching all this testimony from his ex-girlfriend. There's also many of his own family members there. Did we see any kind of reaction from Diddy today?
Right. For the most part, he appears to be pretty focused on Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend. He is listening intently. At one point, we saw him scribble down some notes and speak to his attorney, but other times he appears to be more passive with his hands in his lap at the defense table with not really a certain kind of expression on his face. She, on the other hand, has not appeared to look at him once since she took the stand. She has looked at her husband, who is inside court to support her. Remember, this is the first time that Combs and Ventura are seeing each other face to face since 2018, so you can imagine how this might feel for both of them.
Brian, how do you imagine this might land with the jury hearing all of this extensive testimony of this nature?
So I think at this point with direct examination, without anyone coming up and crossing Cassie, I think the jury is looking at Sean Combs, and I was in court this morning to see some of those looks with disgust, with disdain, to think about how one individual can do this to another in this way. And so I think it's going to be a high hill or even a mountain for the defense to kind of walk this case to the jury to suggest that, yes, Sean Combs, as Tenny Garrigo said in opening statements, has done some indefensible things, but it's a matter of what he's being charged with and what he did. A very difficult distinction, because I think earlier on in her testimony, it seemed much more about domestic violence. Now we're starting to see the allegations and some of the facts that bleed into that sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, and that enterprise, that criminal enterprise that the government alleged is surrounding Sean Combs' inner circle. Because when she looked at some of those photos of the security guards, the chief of staff, at least for me, as I sat in that courtroom, I could hear the tone of her voice change. I can see her body language change, and you can see that she had some very particular feelings of maybe even fear in describing some of these individuals, and I think that's really proven the case for the government.
Brian Buckmeyer and Rena Roy, both with that in-court perspective. Thank you
both. Here's a summary of Cassie Ventura's testimony today, her first time taking the stand. She described freak-offs in which Combs would allegedly watch her having sex with other men. She said that it happened frequently, even weekly at times during their 10-year relationship. She said that they happened in places like New York, Miami, LA, Las Vegas, Turks and Caicos, Atlanta, etc. And she said the last one happened in 2017 or 2018. The prosecution asked Cassie, did she enjoy the freak-offs? She said she enjoyed spending time with Combs. She felt like it was their time to be one-on-one because he was always surrounded by people. It allowed them to be together. And she said, quote, I felt very close to Combs. Ventura said that Combs would pick out her outfits for the freak-offs, directed her on how she was to interact with these male escorts, and provided her with drugs like Molly, ecstasy, ketamine, cocaine, mushrooms, even Viagra. That's right. She said that Combs told her to take Viagra because it had the same effect on a woman that it does on a man. She also said that she always used drugs for freak-offs. Ventura noted that she spent a lot of time, she said, trying to perfect her appearance because she said Combs would criticize her. Early in the relationship, she tells a story where she said Combs said, quote, you look too Mexican, and would, quote, clown my chipped nail polish and dirty sneakers. Throughout Ventura's testimony, she said that she felt confused, worthless, and like an object because of those freak-offs. Combs' family was in the courtroom, 6 of his children, his mother, as well as the mothers of some of those children. The defense has yet to question Ventura, who will take the stand for day 2 tomorrow.